Thank you. This one is, could you please elaborate about how this reality actually functions? I've heard you say that this reality is not real. Each of us is sitting in a room by ourselves talking to our own higher selves. If every person we interact with on this planet is our own version of them, do we ever actually interact with any real souls, or is everything just a reflection that each of us manifests?
Everything in physical reality is a reflection of what you're manifesting, but you are interacting with real souls. It's just that in physical reality, you are interacting with your version of them, your creation of them, in the same way that when you talk to someone over your computer or your telephone, you are interacting with an electronic representation of them. So you're still interacting with a real being, but when you see somebody on your computer screen, you're not interacting with the actual being in that moment. You're interacting with an electronic presentation, electronic representation of them. So it's sort of like that. The idea that physical reality isn't real doesn't mean the experience isn't real, doesn't mean the connection isn't real. It's simply the methodology that we're describing about how you make that interface. We're simply saying the interface, in a sense, is one step removed, just because that's the nature of how physical reality is created. It's like you're creating a screen and receiving your version through your belief system filters of what that person represents to you, what that being represents to you, and they're doing the same with you. But you're still interacting with real beings on a higher level. It's just that you're deciding that you're going to interact with each other through this filter for the purpose of getting in touch with your belief systems and what you need to experience on your life path. That's just the way it works in physical reality, because you're creating the simulation. So that's what you're doing, is you're using the simulation to get a reflection of what it is you're putting out, so you can use it as a guideline to figure out what you need to focus on. But you're interacting with real souls, of course.
So why do people manifest things like abandonment, or being in love with someone that's not in love with them, or
A
all kinds of
million
things?
different reasons. Again, case by case. Everyone has a different life path and everyone is learning different lessons. You have to take it on an individual basis. I can't give you a general answer that addresses every single case that you're bringing up.
So in the sense of having the attitude to have that you're manifesting things where people aren't cooperating the way you want, or whatever the behavior is from people you care about that is not supportive of what you prefer, what is the best way to look at that in terms of how physical reality works?
Well, first and foremost, always check in with yourself to make sure that you don't have expectations based on fear-based or negative beliefs that are out of alignment with the lessons you really need to learn in a situation like that. Secondly, you can observe that maybe the other people involved are also learning their lessons and need to look at certain things for themselves as well, and that you're working this out with each other by processing and communication and whatever processes you need to go through to gain clarity about what the interaction is all about and why you are experiencing it in the way that you're experiencing it. But always, first and foremost, check in with yourself to make sure that you're not insisting and that your expectations are realistic and truly representative of what's going on, that are the things you need to learn for your life path. Then you can investigate, perhaps, if the other people are willing, what's going on in their life path. But always start with yourself.
So the attitude to take whenever you're encountering beings in your life that are not in the relationship the way you prefer is to
Always, as
just,
we have said, in the simplest possible way, you always check in with yourself first and say, is there something in this situation that helps me understand more about what I'm putting out? If you truly have an honest self-assessment that it has nothing to do specifically with lessons that you need to learn about your own belief systems, then you might next, as a next step, say, all right, well, maybe I'm here to reflect to them something that they need to understand to help them with their life path and their life lessons and their belief systems. But usually in your society at this point in your evolution, it's going to be something that works in all directions for all people concerned. There is always something each person can get out of it to learn about what they need to learn to become more of who they truly are. That's why relationships are so important to understand as reflective to each other to help each other become more of who you actually are. It's very rarely only in one direction. There's always something every party in a relationship can learn for their own life path.
Okay, maybe this is the same idea, but this person is asking, are the challenges, trauma, and relationship issues we experience solely our own creation, or do others, circumstances, situations play a role? Is anyone truly at fault, or is there a better way to view the interconnectedness of it all?
We would not use the term at fault. We would use the term life path choices to learn lessons to help your soul grow. So it depends upon the facility that you have to divine what those lessons are, absorb them, and learn them that gives you greater and greater clarity and more expansion in your consciousness by understanding that whatever scenario is happening, there is something you can get out of it that has to do with your life path, and that your life path is always intertwined with other life paths as well, in the way that we've already described reflectively. No one is isolated. All life paths are interconnected. And the idea is to get out of it what you need to learn for yourself and to help the others also get out of it what they need to learn for themselves. But always start with yourself and what you need to learn.
Okay. And can you please share your perspective on compassion? In this person's country, the word is primarily associated with sympathy and pity. While they've never fully resonated with that definition, they find it difficult to separate compassion from feelings of pity. How can you understand that and experience it in a way that is more aligned?
Use the analogy of a parent and a child. When a child doesn't understand something yet, they haven't learned a certain lesson yet, they haven't learned how to navigate certain things in physical reality. Do you sympathize? Do you pity them? No. You have compassion that they are on a learning path. You love them no less, and you hold a space for them and teach them how to learn those things in a constructive and positive way. That's the feeling. You understand that they are on a path where they have chosen to learn certain things in a certain way. You hold a positive, loving space for them to be able to do so. That's what compassion is. You look beyond the idea of what may appear to be momentary and temporary limitations to the broader and bigger picture that they're on a path of learning certain things, and you don't pity a child for not knowing them. You have the largesse and the compassion to create a space for them in which they are invited to grow and to learn, and to see them as powerful souls that have chosen these lessons, that have chosen this life path to learn those lessons in that way. Pity is not necessary and is not involved when you have compassion for others. So think about the analogy of a loving parent and a child. That may help you.
And on your level, do you experience pity at all?
No. Why should we?
The next question is discussing problems or issues in the world inherently negative or disempowering? Does talking about these topics give them reality, or is it more beneficial to focus on positive and trust in the perfection of things?
Well, why can't you do both? Why isn't it this and that instead of this or that? It's not about avoidance. It's about constructive conversation, constructive and positive communication about the things that you think are important to change in your society. Avoiding them isn't the issue. You can focus on what you prefer, but that doesn't mean you avoid the idea that you're still part of a society that is dealing with certain issues, and that you can add your own constructive point of view that may in fact help the situation be resolved in a positive and constructive way eventually. So it's not about avoidance. It's about inclusion. It's about communication. It's about willingness to participate and be involved because you're part of a society that is dealing with issues that need resolution. But come at it from a positive and constructive point of view, knowing what is possible, knowing what is probable, knowing what could be more beneficial. But the idea is engage, but engage in a positive way. It's not inherently negative to discuss things that themselves might be negative. If you approach it from the idea of how can we make this more positive and more beneficial for all. So, of course, it's the style of the approach that makes the difference. Remember, again, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So it's not about the idea that you're discussing things that might inherently have been created negatively that pulls you into negativity or reinforces the negativity. It depends on how you approach it, of course.
You're saying, is this the idea of detachment? Is that an element or a key aspect of
Attached detachment, as some people on your planet have put it. Attached detachment. You are involved, you are engaged, but you know that you're not negatively affected by it just because you might be discussing something that might have been created from negativity. So you are detached in the sense of it having a negative effect on you because you know you're approaching it in a way that could be of benefit to many to find a resolution that works for all. So you are engaged, you are attached, but you are detached in the sense of it's not going to affect you unless you choose to be affected.
And how would you say that relates to the idea of the glass wall when you're observing things that appear to be in your reality, but you're actually seeing them through a glass wall?
It's a direct analogy of what we just described. The glass wall is another way of saying attached detachment. You can observe, you can help, you can comment, you can interact, but it's not going to touch you because you are detached enough to know that you're the one that makes the choice as to what affects you because you're affecting yourself. The only thing you ever feel is your own energy. And if you know that, that's the glass wall.
Okay. This person is asking, as a mother, what is the best way to introduce your teaching or a new perspective of truth to her children? They are raised in a Christian Bible-based school, and she doesn't know how to bridge this gap with them while she's still learning herself.
Well, again, as we have said, there are many things you can do with children that don't necessarily involve whatever kind of religion or faith they may choose to belong to or are being exposed to. And that is the idea of using your own creative imagination to create scenarios in a safe environment, simulations, if you will, where children can be taught the consequences of the choices they make because everything is interconnected. You can teach them that everything is interconnected, and with your creative imagination, create analogies and, shall we say, demonstrations of this, if you are imaginative and creative enough, in a way that they can understand that every choice they make has consequences because it connects to everything else, that you're operating with whole systems, that nothing is isolated, everything's connected to everything else. So if they can learn to make choices that are beneficial for all, for the whole, then they themselves will also be served. If they're just serving themselves, then they're cutting themselves off from the benefits of the whole. Teach them that they are as powerful as they need to be to attract whatever they truly need in life without having to hurt themselves or anyone else in order to attract that, in order to get what they need. You can teach them the formula in general in whatever terms and language they are willing to understand, and just make sure that anything that you believe is necessary for them to thrive in physical reality as a lesson is adapted to their excitement rather than trying to adapt their excitement to the lesson. Those things can allow them to mature into adults, regardless of whatever ideas of spirituality, faith, religion, what have you, they may hold on to, because some of those things can serve them in positive ways if they use them that way. But the idea is to know that they are self-empowered beings who can grow up into mature, constructive, and positive adults that will benefit society and benefit themselves by understanding the consequences of the choices that they make, and therefore making beneficial and positive choices for themselves and for society.
Okay, and this person is a teacher of 10 and 11-year-old students and wants to know if these children are really a new species and what exactly does that mean?
It means their DNA alteration is slightly different from your DNA configuration, generally speaking. It means they have more access to more of who they are as a soul. It means they can demonstrate more and different abilities than past generations were capable of doing, because the DNA arrangement that they came through with allows them to tap into higher frequency information and energies than past generations were capable of doing. And in that sense, they are a different species.
And this person is a member of a Reddit group for experiencers, and the person who leads that group is associated with Stephen Greer. And it seems very legit and conscientious. And the thought is that many of the people who have experienced encounters with ETs are what is called neurodivergent. Like in a room of 100 experiencers, 90% of them will either be autistic or have ADHD or both. Why is it that so many of them who have had close encounters with ETs are neurodivergent?
Because the soul knew that coming into physical reality would require an alteration of their focus so that they could, in a sense, not be so subjected to the general consensus reality, and therefore would have attributes that would make them more open to receiving higher frequency information from different dimensional realms, therefore acting as a model or a symbol or a representation of what exists in all Homo sapiens that can open up and allow them to experience open contact more easily and more readily.
And I guess this is kind of connected, the idea that there are humans on Earth who have received genetic modifications by the Greys, and that makes them more compatible in certain ways with ETs.
Yes.
These people may also exhibit autistic traits and have trouble relating to other humans. Are these precursors?
No, precursors were not born on Earth. You may be preparers, but that's different. Preparers are Homo sapiens that have made a life choice to be involved in the ideas of teaching humanity how to be in the different altered states and learn lessons from different altered states and ways of presenting and communication that can prepare humanity for open contact. But precursors are actually extraterrestrial beings that were not born on Earth, that may walk among you in order to, shall we say, rub off on you in terms of their vibration and take notice of how many people are sensitive enough to notice that they are different.
And here's a new question. Do spirit guides place bets on the spirits they're supposed to be guiding through physical reality?
No, that's a human activity.
I've never heard that one before. Um, how does
I bet you haven't.
how does all that is know that it is only one? It is the only one. Is it
That is the
possible for
nature of all that is. There can be many versions of all that is, but then that still implies that there is an all that is of all that is. So, by the very definition of the way that we're phrasing that, all that is, inherently, its quality, one of its qualities, one of its abilities would be to know that it is the one.
Okay, so we have some questions, some ET questions. And before I do that, let's talk about a few current events. First one is the LA fires. Why did our beloved city of angels go up in flames? What lessons are we to learn from this tragedy?
Number one, I think many of you understand that it's connected to the changes in your climate because of what has happened in your environment that has allowed the idea of your environmental weather patterns to change in such a way as to make certain areas more vulnerable to different kinds of natural phenomena, whether it be fire, whether it be flood, so on and so forth. Extremes are the result of the imbalance that has been created in nature. Climate change acts in different ways in different locations on your planet. Some places get drier, more susceptible to fire. Some places get wetter and more susceptible to flooding. Some places get colder and more susceptible to freezing. Some places get hotter and are more susceptible to desertification. So it's all about the idea of all the different variations becoming more pronounced and more exaggerated as you go through the idea of climate change, which is A, a natural cycle, but B, sped up by the technologies of humanity. What's going on now, most likely without the technological assistance, so to speak, probably wouldn't have happened for at least another century or two. But now you have sped it up with the idea of your technologies that are in many ways destroying the environment or imbalancing it. Number
And
two, number two, the idea is to, because of the new way in which you have to deal with your environment through climate change, to stop rebuilding the same way you used to. Learn new techniques, learn how to adapt. So don't just build what was there before that is easily destroyed. Adapt and build in new ways. Learn how to build with nature.
All right. And is there also a level of it that has to do with like anger? Is fire representative of anger or
For some people, it
purification or
can case by case basis.
okay. And this person would like clarification when you said that the female will lead to open contact and the male to World War III.
We're not going to discuss that at this time.
Okay. All right. And let's see. So what you were talking about before with the idea of fire, it doesn't have what are some of the representations spiritually that fire has for humans on a collective level?
Acceleration, clearing out, rebuilding, starting from scratch, zeroing out, clean slate, purification. Those can be some representations of the idea of the experience of fire. But it can also, again, like anything, have positive and negative connotations. It can be that which is out of control. As you said, it can be the representation of anger, temper, temperature, temper. So again, it can be many things to many people. You have to take it on an individual and perhaps sometimes even on a collective group basis as to what it may represent to different people that are going through those experiences and what lessons they are willing to learn.
Okay. And are there humans who have directly and extensively interacted with mantis beings and co-created hybrid children with them?
No.
And can
Interacted with mantis beings, yes. Created hybrid children with them, no. That is not the function of the mantis being, to be involved in the hybridization agenda in that way. They are the overseers of it. They are not participating in it in the way that the Greys are.